All right, everybody. I am what you need on one channel, but on this channel, I am Christ Am Disciple, aka Anderson Phillip, and I want to talk today about several things. One of them is the Rebel Moon updates, and we're also going to talk about uh, uh, United Nations sort of inaction, you know, to what's happening right now in Palestine and Gaza. Also going to talk about Zack Snyder's view towards restore the Snyderverse, how he feels about it. So sit back, relax, as I will chat with you. Now, usually it's interactive, so you could come on, you could say your piece, and then you leave. But in this case, it's not going to be interactive because one, I'm streaming this from YouTube, and two, because I just choose to have this format for now, but you guys can always interact with the chat. Feel free to do so. Usually I begin with a piece of scripture. I'm known as Christ I Am Disciple, so I start off with a scripture because I'm a Christian. So here we go. Matthew chapter 19, and we're looking at verses 13 to 15. It says this. Some children were brought to Jesus, right? So he could lay his hands on them and pray for them. And his disciples told the people with the children not to bother Jesus. No, don't bring no kid there. But Jesus said, no, let the kids come. Don't stop them, for the kingdom of heaven is made of these. And he put his hands on their heads, he blessed them before he left. He was busy at the time. There's another piece of scripture that says, as you do unto the least of these, my brethren, so you do to me. That's what Jesus told his disciples. I wanted to start off with that because the context in which I'm going to be saying all these things is going to be in that lens, viewed from that lens. You know, some of the least important people in the world are sometimes the most important people. I hate to say it like that. You know, some of the least important people in your life are probably the most important people in your life, because how you treat those people actually is how you would you truly value humanity. And sometimes the least esteemed people in your life are the people who are mistreating you. So you hate them. So you don't esteem them highly at all. Sometimes the least esteemed people in your life are people who you don't even realize exist. That's to tell you how bad it is. You pass them every single day and you don't pay attention to them, you know? And sometimes the least esteemed people in your life are kids. They're children, because, children don't really have a lot of responsibilities. They don't have a lot. So sometimes you have a priority. You're doing something that's very important so you can make money, whatever. And somehow a kid may come in, to get your attention. You're like, not right now. I have to do this, And sometimes kids are not, obviously children are not prioritized on the same level as adults. What I mean by this is not in terms of care and concern, and children are very interesting. By and large, they're fun. They usually don't see the world through the lens that we see it. I'm not talking about the ones with the trauma. I'm talking the ones without the trauma. So they'll give you more of an honest opinion. Like I was walking behind a mother and a son, little boy. And she, no, actually I was in the line. And she, it's so funny. This little boy, so they're in the line, right? And the little boy, he's fidgeting all over the place, right? She's trying to hold him. She's holding one of his hands. And he senses the same thing she senses. He's thinking the same thing she's thinking. She's thinking it, but he's saying it. So he looks and he starts counting. He starts counting the number of people in front of him, right? He starts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 people. There's 7 people in front of us, mommy. It was hilarious because I know she was doing the same thing, you know. And it's just, you know, children tend to verbalize what, you know, just by looking at us, studying us, or behavioral patterns, how we behave, mostly how we behave. They can sense when we're, you know, impatient or when we're angry, but we're not showing it, we're trying to mask it. They can pick up everything, right? And so it was just interesting how the little kid, how he was able to articulate what his mother was not going to say. So I was chuckling in the back. She turned back watching at me. Yeah. But, you know, we usually don't esteem kids because we have so much experience in life. We wouldn't expect a kid, for example, you know, to pick up a 9 to 5 and be working for a boss, right? We don't do that. Kids don't work, right? Kind of like that. Even though we would get them like little tasks and chores, like things for them to learn responsibility, you know, learn how to, you know, run things and stuff like that. You know, when I was about what, 10, you know, I was going around selling stuff like brooms and, well, back in the day, this is way back, like just like in the 80s, the 90s, I was going around selling brooms and stuff. And, you know, I was, you know, learning responsibility, learning how to manage your money, you know. Yeah, once upon a time you got an allowance and then they just cut your allowance and they said, all right, whatever you work for, that's what you'll get. So, you know, you go out there in the summertime, you get summer jobs, you know, you do all that, you know what it is, you know, the whole nine. So, but the thing is, nobody expects a kid to be running a business, for example. They do it today, you know, social media, that kind of thing, but they don't expect kids to be doing that, right? So that's what I mean by esteem. Yeah, I wouldn't expect I see a child there and I don't know he's the owner of a company. I'll be looking at him like, I don't esteem him much or very highly. You see what I'm saying? So the trick in life is to be able to be humble enough to be able to listen to what people are saying. You cannot pay attention to the form. Like me, for example, you're watching this bushy haired guy, you know, talking right now on YouTube. You wouldn't really think that I was like a university grad and all of this, right? You wouldn't be thinking that. You'd be thinking, well, this guy, you might hear me talking. Shout out to Leroy Khan. What's up, my brother? Great live. Zack Snyder rules. James Gunn sucks. All right. Yeah. You wouldn't think of me like that kind of person. Maybe if you hear me, right? But if you see me, you wouldn't think much about me. And the point is that it's not really about what form we come in. You know, it's the messages that we portray to each other. It's the things we convey, the information we convey, the relationships we convey, right? So I just wanted to get that across. That's what the scripture is saying. It's all about understanding at the end of the day. Being able to understand each other. Because if we have an understanding, if we understand each other, life will be much more easier. Because now we figure out how to navigate, how to speak a language. Even if somebody might see eye to eye with you, you get why they don't see eye to eye with you. And maybe over time, they're convinced by how you behave, hey, this person maybe is right about certain things or whatever. Because it's more actions speak louder than words, as we say, right? So keep bearing that in mind. Let's talk a little bit about Rebel Moon first before I go into anything else. Or maybe I'll start off with what Zack Snyder said. Shout out to Leroy Kong in the building. What's up, Leroy Kong? Again, I'm boycotting every James Gunn DC. We need the Snyderverse. I hear you, brother. I hear you loud and clear. I'm actually not interested in DC right now. I spoke to Warner Brother Pictures at length. You know, we went through it with them, you know, and they seem to be just hell-bent on doing whatever they want to do. Abdi and Luca, I guess I have to go along with them. And so, you know, we know Aquaman's going to tank at the cinema, and we know, you know, without the Snyder fans, DC's going to tank time and time again. It has been the Snyder fans that has been consistently giving DC, infusing at least $500 million into DC. Not to mention all the people that we galvanize, we excite, and the general audience that gets interested in DC. As we withdrew our support from DC, that's why these films started to tank. And it's just because we weren't interested. We told you what we were interested in, but they wouldn't listen. So we're gone. Let's see how DC works without us. And that's how you have to move as well, Leroy. And there's nothing wrong with that. I am not interested anyway in whatever they have to offer. Leroy Kong says Rebel Moon will be great. So here's the thing. Before I go further, right? Since we're starting off with Rebel Moon and all that, we'll start with Zack Snyder. So Zack Snyder on Vero. I'm trying to remember who put up the Vero post. I can't remember who exactly. I can actually go and have a look at that in a second. Here, let me go on X. I can't remember who posted up on Vero. Actually, it should be somewhere here. Somewhere. It's somewhere here. Let's see. Okay, anyway. It's just some heavy stuff I just saw on Twitter as I was scrolling through. It's so weird. Entertainment and a lot of things just lose value when other things take priorities. You know, your joy in certain things just disappears, and it's just interesting. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, let me see here. Okay. All right, so Zack Snyder on Vero. That's so bizarre. I know. I'm sorry to take so long to scroll through. I just wanted to. Yes, thank you very much. All right, I'm gonna keep that. I just got caught up in Twitter for a second. Sorry about that. Thank you, Bird. Awesome. So we got a lot of good people in this world. It's just sad that the people who. Oh Lord. Oh my God. All right. It's so awful what I have to say. Oh yeah. Thanks a lot, Leroy. It's so awful what I have to say, and it just seems to get worse and worse and worse. I'm just going through Twitter trying to find the Zack Snyder stuff, and I'm just seeing some stuff that's just awful, just awful. Which is awkward. Can my feet get any worse? Oh my God. Anyway, on Vero, a Vero, somebody on Vero anyway posted up to Zack Snyder that you know the Snyderverse, uh, you know, is it going to end, or is it something to the effect of that? I couldn't remember exactly what it is. And Zack Snyder liked the post when no, he actually answered the guy. In words, it was cryptic, but he basically said he's still interested in the Snyderverse and he's interested in going forward, right? Which is really awesome. So restore the Snyderverse, the DC Snyderverse, that is. And then in Rebel Moon in Brazil, the fans in Brazil were chanting when Ray Fisher came up on stage, and they were calling him Cyborg, 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 which was really cool again, you know? So, basically what I wanted to say, I just can't find the information right now, is that Zack Snyder, he's still interested in, of course, pursuing DC and what his story in DC, particularly Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 and 3, I'm assuming. He was talking about a DC movie, the Batman Dark Knight Returns. He wants to do an ode to that, but that's beside the point. The other thing is, he was interviewed recently with, I think it was Hollywood Reporter or something else. I can't remember what it was. And on there, he spoke about defending the fans because of all the atrocious things people were saying about him and his family. He spoke about us and how, whether people think we're toxic or not, that we were there to defend him. And he thought that was a really nice thing. And of course, Zach is a very nice person. And just to get into the Rebel Moon thing, Brazil is on fire with Zack Snyder there. The whole cast was there. The actor that plays Admiral Noble, and you see all the military behind Admiral Noble, and it was spooky. And we saw the actor that plays. I'm trying to remember the character, but the character that plays the guy that flies the planes and everything. He pulls off his stuff and puts on the Brazilian football jersey, soccer jersey. Well, y'all call it soccer. So that was really, really awesome, and I was just blown away by the atmosphere and Zach, getting tagged with this light thing or this ink thing, and it was just really cool watching all of that. Rebel Moon will be a masterpiece, says Leroy Kong. Absolutely, absolutely. So I was very happy for Zach. I'm very happy for Zach, actually. In fact, Zach said this to the Hollywood Reporter. That chapter in my life is now closed, and it would be difficult for me to reopen it. Maybe I could do the Dark Knight Returns movie. Zack Snyder on Vero, restore the Snyderverse. So Zach's been sending mixed messages, but basically Zach wants to continue the story, as I said before. That's what I get from it. But he's willing to sort of part ways with that for the moment and focus on Rebel Moon, which is what we're focused on right now. And I'm happy to part ways with that for the moment and focus on Rebel Moon myself. So that's where I'm at. I am. Of course, the fight keeps on. Oh, by the way, I'm not supporting David Ayer's The Ayer Cut anymore. He said some really dumb stuff that I just... why are we even doing it? He said that the industry, should never reveal to fans what goes on behind the scenes. That's the dumbest statement I've ever heard David Ayer say or agree with. I think he agreed with it. Hold on one second. Somebody's passing with a big old loud noise. So basically, Zack Snyder, is going to be doing Rebel Moon. We're looking forward to that. I was going to say something else, but I can't remember. My train of thought kind of went off because I was in a pause and I was looking at all this stuff here associated with Palestine. But basically, Zack Snyder, Zack Snyder seems interested in going forward with Rebel Moon at this point in time, and that's what my focus is at. My focus is not on DC. My focus is not on Warner Bros. Pictures. I don't care about them. I don't care what they do. Whatever they want to do, they can do. I will start back next year with the Restore the Snyderverse stuff, but as of now, I just want to wait for Aquaman to flop. And this year, to me, was the best time for the Snyder Cut to come out. They didn't bother to do that, so I'm like, waste of time. I'm not gonna waste my time with them. Yeah, I was saying about the Ayer Cut that he said, that behind. What's weird about that is that, SAG-AFTRA. We knew what was happening behind the scenes. This is why SAG-AFTRA, the Writers Guild, what was going on with the strikes there. We knew, Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's because of us, the fans, that we got it. The Ayer Cut, we knew what was happening behind the scenes, so we could help David Ayer get his Ayer Cut out. So this guy's, agreeing to some stuff that just don't make no damn sense really just got me mad. Because you're basically saying everything that we're doing, we shouldn't do because the studio should never have let us know. Okay? So after that, I'm done. I'm not supporting no Ayer Cut. And screw David Ayer. He's stupid. He's kissing up to James Gunn, who will never give him his haircut. It's just I'm tired of this dude. I'm tired of him. And he's always looking to lash out or lambaste the fans instead of lambaste, you know, the people who are doing the nonsense. If we didn't know the nonsense that these people were doing, then guess what? Guess what? We would have never gotten the Snyder Cut. SAG-AFTRA would have never gotten their deal properly. The Guild of America, I mean, it's called mobilizing and campaigning behind something. So it is what it is. And he tries to say, well, there's toxic fans and stuff. Dude, just forget you. You know what I'm saying? You keep on slapping us in the face, calling us toxic and all kinds of stupid things. But you want your movie to come out, but yet you don't want you're saying we should never have known about it. Come on, man, dude. So I'm done with him. Okay. Yeah. So I said that to say that Rebel Moon's where we're moving with it. We're not studying with Warner Brother Pictures. We're not studying about DC. That's the negative energy. We don't need none of that. We're gonna focus on Rebel Moon. It should be one of the best things this year. Lyric Khan says, I'm no toxic fan. I hear you, brother. I like to spend my time constructively, watching things constructively happen and build. So that's where we're at with that. All right, let's get into the other thing. This topic is pretty heavy. This is got to deal with Free Palestine. And I said the United Nations is really dragging its feet on so many things when it comes to Gaza. And I'll explain. So the ceasefire or the pause in fighting stopped as they were exchanging hostages, right? During that pause, the different Arab states, what was known as the Arab Islamic coalition or community, they spoke to what is called the Security Council to admonish them to ensure that a ceasefire is kept. And the Security Council dragged its feet. Yes, the U.S. vetoed one or two things, and it seems like you have to have a unanimous decision. But they dragged their feet on that, and so we're back into war. Now, here's the thing that I don't get about the United Nations, right? And I find it just really stupid, and this is why I'm saying I don't understand what the United Nations is doing. Follow me on this. You send in people, right, experts, to work with humanitarian aid, to provide relief, to provide medical attention to people, right? You do it in the humanitarian pause. You're bringing in food. Okay, fire trucks and so on. Now you tell me, just try to make sense of this, right? United Nations is doing this, but they have nothing in place to protect these people and to make sure that they're secure when they're going to where they're going. Now, who? What country in the world? What country in the world does something like that? Okay? Now, you have to understand something. For those of you who don't understand the whole Palestinian thing and what's wrong about this, is so much wrong about it. The first thing is Gaza, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Negev are all Palestinian land. Okay? Palestinian land. Now, that land is occupied. There are people who occupy Palestinian land who are Israeli. They're called Israeli settlers. They're not supposed to be there. The United Nations has said that it's illegal that they are there. But they haven't been moved. And military, the Israeli military called the IDF, which is the Israeli Defense Force. They have come to protect those settlers, and they're literally imposing laws on the Palestinian in their own country where they can't go down certain streets, where they're arrested for attacking the army or the police. They even have police force in there. The settlers shoot the Palestinians in that land. They can kill them, do whatever, and the military can't do them nothing. Let me say that has been going on for decades. Decades. And the United Nations has done nothing about it. After they passed the international laws since 1967, they have done nothing about that. That's the first thing. Secondly, okay, in addition to that, Palestine has a government. But Palestine is not universally recognized as a country or a state. Isn't this ridiculous? And that needs to be ratified in the United Nations immediately in the territory of Palestine. Thirdly, as I said before, Palestine has a government, but it does not have a military. It doesn't have an airport. It doesn't have a route of exit out of the country and into the country. Okay? The way how Palestine is being treated at this point in time is as if it is an extension of Israel. As if Israelis can just go into Palestine and leave. In fact, you can actually do that. Israelis or foreigners can go into Palestine. You don't need a visa or passport to go into Palestine and leave Palestine. The only people who cannot leave Palestine or go into Palestine as they want are Palestinians. These laws have just been decreed by Israel out of the clear blue sky. Who told them they could do that? They have no authority to do that. Even though the state of Palestine has not been ratified, it is not Israeli land. Now, how is the Israelis try to circumvent this is saying there's terrorism in Palestine. Terrorists, they're terrorizing us. That's how they try to invade, and they declare war to say that they can, but they're not supposed to do that. According to the rules of war, when the war is over, people are supposed to be able to return to their homes and to their lands. That's how war works. So here's what's going on. The northern part of Palestine right now is occupied by Israeli military. There are some people who did not leave their homes and they're still in northern Palestine. Okay? But for the most part, it's Israeli military and Hamas, who are what we call the resistance in Palestine. They're not perfect. Their government ain't perfect. They're more terrorists than they are. They're more terrorists than they are official people. Okay, they're not perfect, but they're the only resistance right now to the IDF. They've mounted their defense in central Gaza. Okay, in the city of Gaza, what's called Gaza City. They're there, right? And the IDF has not been able to move past them. But I must say, there have been air raids, there have been air bombings, there have been all kinds of things. Hamas has exchanged prisoners with the the Israeli government. The Israeli government put these fake charges on Palestinian citizens who are living in Palestine. They're not in Israel. Right? They put these fake charges. None of these charges are valid. I'll tell you why. Doesn't matter what they do to the Israeli police or to the military, because they're not supposed to be there. They're not supposed to be there. So they shouldn't have prisoners. You can call them hostages, just like how you can call the Israelis who the Hamas had kidnapped hostages. That's kidnapping. That's illegal what they're doing. They're not doing anything legal. And the United States is not only allowing them to do so, but funding them. So let me explain what needs to be done. I need to talk to the United Nations particularly about this, because this is ridiculous. When I started doing my homework on this thing, it just sounds so ridiculous, it's not funny. The amount of laws that Israel's just breaking. Now, first and foremost, just to let you guys know, the International Criminal Court, the man who leads that, he's in Palestine right now. Today, he's in Palestine, in in going to speak with the heads of Palestine, the heads of the PLO or the PLA. Okay, and he's going to see some of the victims of what has been happening in the West Bank. So let me just say, and I've been appealing and I've been campaigning online, on Twitter particularly. I've been campaigning. I am unofficially part of the BDS movement. I don't care if you ban it in whatever country, it's going to go like that. That is the boycott, divestment, and sanction movement. Okay, and I'll explain that to you guys some other time. But for now, just know I'm unofficially a part of the BDS movement. For wars to happen, you got to have money. To exploit people, you got to have money. Okay, you can't exploit people, you can't oppress people if you got no money. Okay, which means you got to do business with somebody. Okay, that's where we go. So it's a nonviolent way of influencing nations. If a nation realizes it's not profitable to go down a certain path, they more than likely won't go down that path. And that's what the BDS movement's about. And we'll explain that in some more detail some other time. But suffice it to say this. The first thing the United Nations needs to do, by the way, the United Nations voted for a ceasefire a couple weeks ago. 120 countries participated in saying, yes, we want a ceasefire. The United Nations is made up of 193 countries. 40 something countries, I think 39, I think 39 countries abstained from voting. And 14 countries opposed the vote. I'm not too sure how much you need to have it happen. Apparently you need to have a unanimous decision or something like that. I don't know. But those 14 nations, of course, the United States, some of Europe, and particularly Israel were those who opposed such. I need to explain something to the United Nations. The whole purpose of the United Nations coming to be is so something like this, which is happening now, which is like a Holocaust, okay? Over 30,000 people have lost their lives. I want you to picture this. And of those 30,000 people, 10,000 of them were children, okay? And at least 8,000 of them were women. And we still haven't found a lot of missing people in the rubble. So we're talking about half of 100,000 people, about 50,000 people we have no account for. I'm sorry, 50,000 people are either missing or dead. And then we have double that figure, 100,000 people are injured in various ways. Then you have 2.2 million people who are not getting food, who are dying because of disease, who are dying because they're not getting medication. Okay? Out of that entire country, which has like about 30 to 40 hospitals, we have only 2 or 3 that are operational right now. Israel has cut all water and has stopped all food and other things from coming into the country, like clothing and stuff to keep you warm from the cold. So the conditions are so dire that it's a humanitarian crisis where 2.2 million people, okay? I want you to understand what I'm saying because you need to process this. 2.2 million people are not very well. Some of them are on the border of death. Okay? I'm saying this while Israel is relentlessly bombing them every night. I want you to get the picture of how dire this is. Now, I say this because the United Nations brought in relief, not to the level that it was supposed to be, but they have brought in relief. They should have 800 trucks going into Palestine per day. They have now a very, very dense population because 2.2 million people that used to be from the north to the south of the strip are now compressed down to the south of the strip, and they're bombing the south of the strip. Okay? United Nations is sending workers, doctors, humanitarian aid workers, truck drivers into South Gaza without any protection whatsoever. That is reckless. Reckless. Why is it that the United Nations is not, at this point in time, sending military peacekeepers into that zone from Egypt? They should be flying the troops in, and they should be moving the troops in with military vehicles. And the troops need to protect the people of Gaza. They need to ensure, and pressure should be placed on them to ensure that the ceasefire holds and that they maintain that ceasefire. Anything in the airspace should be shot down. Any plane in the airspace should be shot down. Any missile firing contraption should be shot at and destroyed. So they understand this is a no-fly zone, just like what the U.S. was trying to push in Ukraine. Same thing, no-fly zone. And if you're moving your tanks trying to come towards this place, you will be met with opposition, because you have to understand, Gaza has no military. They have no defense. The only thing they have is a couple of rebels who fire missiles into Israel, which, and quite frankly, Israel should have stopped that a long time ago. They should have just fired something on that and blow that up, right? My point anyway is this. They don't have any defense, and they don't really have a military. The military supposedly is Hamas. They're mostly civilians who have nothing to do with Hamas. Most of them have nothing to do with Hamas. They just want to get along with their lives. Okay? So this cannot happen. We cannot have people firing on civilians. That's what's happening. Okay? They're not firing on Hamas. Hamas is underground. They pop up out underground and they do their thing and then they go back underground. Okay? That's what Hamas does. They're ambush guerrilla warfare. Okay? That's what they're doing. You're not going to get Hamas that way. Okay? So the United Nations Security Council, we don't just want a ceasefire. We want your presence in there. You have 193 countries who are willing to donate whatever it takes, military, money, whatever. The United Nations can get it because you have so many countries who will just donate. You need manpower, you need soldiers, you need whatever. We're going to do it for the interest of peace. And why that is the is the best possible way for things to happen, as happened in Yugoslavia, as happened in other countries, is because when you send a particular country into that combat, that country has to take on quite a lot. If Turkey was to go into battle, or if Lebanon was going to battle, or whatever. But when you do it under the umbrella of the United Nations, where you know they're going to try to maintain the peace, they're not going in there for war. They're just in there as a deterrent, just like how the United States is on the coast right now as a deterrent. Well, you have countries right around. You have countries surrounding Israel. Okay? You've got Lebanon, Jordan, Syria. You've got Turkey. Okay? You've got Yemen. You got Oman. You got Saudi Arabia. You got Iraq. You got Iran. All of these countries surround Israel. These countries can easily give you some of their troops, okay, to the United Nations. They can also give you equipment. If you need helicopters, planes, whatever you need, they can supply it to you, okay? I listened to Vladimir Putin giving a lecture to the United Nations and the Security Council on why are they not acting in the interest. He's violating rules, what he's talking. But anyway, but he made sense. He's saying, look at what's happening. Look, people are not even using anesthetic to deliver babies. Babies are dying all the time and stuff. This should not be happening, people. This is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. And anybody telling me, oh, you're anti-Semitic, I say, man, go shoot yourself in the foot. You know what I'm saying? Because this has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. In fact, guess what? A lot of the Palestinians are Semites too. So what are you really saying? Okay? No, this is not anti-Semitic. This is just about what is wrong. And Israel is wrong. Their government is wrong. Netanyahu is wrong. He should have been gone a long time ago. Okay? The other thing that the United Nations needs to do is put sanctions on Israel immediately. Turkey, which annexed Israel, which allows oil to move from Azerbaijan into Israel, should turn off the oil supply immediately. We suspend everything until Israel obeys international law. Suspend all diplomacy, cut ties with them diplomatically. It's suspended. It's not indefinite. It's suspended. You suspend all. If oil comes through your country, Turkey, something happened to the oil line. Turkey didn't deliberately do anything. It just something happened to the oil line. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where they get the fuel to make the war. So you cut the fuel. 3, do no commerce with Israel. None. The 120 countries that said, we don't want this, we don't like this, you suspend everything, and now we force Israel to negotiate because they need to go back to the negotiation table. And in fact, quite frankly, they just need to give the people back their land and get the fuck out of their land. Sorry about the F-bomb. Okay? They need to get out of the land because it's not your land. Get out of it. Okay? It's already agreed it's their land. Get all your settlers, pack up your stuff, and go into Israel. Get out the people's land. Okay? It's their land. And you are not supposed to even be trying to tell us anything about what you should do with the people and you should need to come and occupy. No. You don't get to do that. You're a bully. You're a bully, and I hate bullies. You don't get to say what the people must do with their land. You don't get to say that. Now, the international community gets to say whatever they want to say because the international community actually are interested in Palestine and seeing Palestine do something with themselves. And I'm going to say this. Hamas will no longer be relevant once Palestinians have their own land and they can do whatever they want on it. They will no longer become relevant, at least as a terrorist organization or whatever you want to call them. Because they won't. Why are they picking up arms? For what? So if the United Nations goes in there, the peacekeepers, as they are called, and they protect Palestine, there'll be no need for Hamas to protect Palestine. There'll be no need. And you can't say it's Iran or Turkey or Syria or Saudi Arabia that jumped in there and Israel could point the fingers at any one person. No, the whole entire world decided, no, you can't be doing this to this. And Palestine's a little... It's small. It's much smaller than Israel. Israel has so much space. What are you going and taking the people's land for? Oh, because the Lord promised us that land. No, yeah, but he didn't tell you to go take it like that. He didn't tell you to go take it like that. And I have Jewish roots, but he didn't tell you to go take it like that. Come on. And they're trying to get the mosque out of East Jerusalem so they can build their temple. Come on, man. Y'all need to stop it. Stop it. Y'all are big grown peoples. You're behaving like kids. Get out the people's land. Stop being a bully. Okay? So, what I think the United Nations needs to do, which they haven't done for decades, is they need to step up. And if you can't do the job, then disband as the United Nations. Don't stick together. What are you sticking together for? Y'all are just yes men for the United States. If the United States vetoes something, that's it. You have to be able to speak truth to power. And you have to be able to act on it. You have to. Otherwise, you're irrelevant. Lost and Found says, shout out. Most people are not interested in truth. The sheep only follow the current narrative. Keep sharing, bro. I mean, bro, this is just a human thing, though. It has nothing to do with Jew or Muslim or whatever. And I think that Israel has the upper hand right now to set the example, to show people how Western culture is better in terms of freedom. What democracy could really do. I mean, America, you know, I don't want to disrespect America right now. I don't want to bring up anything that I don't need to bring up. This topic's on Israel and Palestine, right? Somebody got to speak to Israel and let them know, and that would be the United Nations. I know Mr. What's his name? Putin. Mr. Putin said his piece. You know, I've listened to Mr. Jinping, and Mr. Jinping, he also said his piece. Okay. So China and Russia are on the same page with that. The all of the global south is on the same page with this. All of the global south agree, even though they have different things. Like for example, the Saudis are really angry at Hamas because Hamas seems to be putting the people in danger, which is very true. In fact, I heard a Hamas leader get up and he was saying, you know, now you have to put your bodies on the line, martyrdom. And I'm like, what the hell? Bruh. Like, dial it back. You know what I'm saying? And again, but I understand that Hamas doing what they can do as a military and as a governing body. They were elected by the people. The other thing I would say is this. The other thing I gotta say is this. That even if Palestine becomes its own state, the first thing they need to do is elections again. They need to do elections. And when we say, okay, so there's a lot of things that people don't understand about Palestine. I don't mean to disrespect nobody or anything. And let me tell you this. This is another thing that I need people to understand. The narrative that they're giving you right now is not the narrative that's happening in Israel. Okay? In Israel, for several different reasons, the Israelis do not want Netanyahu there. They don't want him there. Okay? They really don't want him there for several different reasons. This one was just the one that broke the camel's back. Now, they're muting this information, so a lot of people do not know that right now, the majority of Israelis, 70% of Israel, do not want Mr. Netanyahu leading the country right now. Okay? 70, actually, it's increased. The last poll that they did, 4% wanted him to stay in power. 4%. No, sorry, my bad. Not stay in power. 4% believed he was a credible source. 4%. 70% were listening to the head of the IDF and the IDF spokespeople. Okay? Which, to be honest with you, they're not even as credible either. They're not very credible. But the point I'm making is that what is going on right now in Israel, people are not fond of it, and they're not really in support of it. There's a lot of you would see a lot of crazy stuff on TikTok, but trust me, the majority of Israelis really are not into that, because there's several different reasons. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why it's so. One is what people don't know, okay? Besides the Arab Israelis, we have, the Bedouin Israelis, we have the Berber Israelis, we have different Israelis. We have different Israelis that come from different countries, whether it's Iraq or Iran, and they're seen all different. The Israelis that they consider Israelis, the real Israelis, they consider more European, American Israelis, right? Now, you have to understand something, though. These Israelis, a lot of them, and I can show you evidence of this, have families in Palestine. I'm going to say it again. I'm not sure about the actual figures, but there are Israelis, a sizable chunk of them, who have relationships with people in Gaza, in the West Bank, and in East Jerusalem. They actually have families there. Some of them it's through marriage. Some of them have in-laws. And this is so for, any country is like that, right? If you listen to the Egyptian comedian who was speaking to Piers Morgan, his wife's family is from Palestine. Okay? If you listen to, here's another thing that a lot of people don't know. America is supposed to be interested in Americans who live in Palestine. There are 800 Americans who live in Palestine. They have American citizenship and they have Palestinian citizenship. And they live in Palestine. They live well in Palestine. They're usually doctors, lawyers, whatever they are. Okay? They live in Palestine. Okay? It wasn't just Israelis who were kidnapped that were in Palestine. No, they're actual Americans in Palestine. And here's another thing for you guys. But this is a little bit different. This is very technical. But I'm going to say it anyway. There are Jews, I said it, that live in Palestine. But what they've done is they've converted themselves to Islam so that their children wouldn't be taken from them and carried back to Israel. They married a Palestinian person, whether it's a man or a woman. They had kids with them. And instead of going back to Israel, they stayed in Palestine because you can't go to Israel with a Palestinian partner. That partner has to stay in Palestine. You get to visit them when there's a humanitarian crisis. So they said, no, we want to stay together. So they stayed in Palestine. They became Islam because in Palestine, most of the people are Muslim. You don't want to stand out like a Jewish person. And plus, there's no Jewish mosque in there. My point anyway is that that's what happened. Now, the reason that happened also is because in 2000 and I'm trying to remember if it's 2005 or 2006, the settlers moved out of Gaza, and Gaza was allowed to be its own thing and run it. The Palestinians were allowed to run Gaza. So Gaza is one of the territories that is not settler occupied, but it is still occupied because it has a wall and it's monitored, and they regulate water and stuff that goes into Gaza, which Israel, again, is not supposed to do that. That's illegal. Do you understand that? That's like saying, okay, we get to regulate, we surround your country. We surround the United States of America, right? Let's say Germany, right? Germany just surrounds the United States of America and controls the borders. What goes into America and what doesn't go into America. It's like that. You're still occupying because you're the one controlling what goes in and what goes out, not the Americans, right? Gaza is supposed to be controlled by people, and Gaza is made up of 70% 80% refugees. They're the people who, during the Nakba, what was called the tragedy, right? The Nakba, they were the ones that were pushed out of what is now called Israel, what was once called Palestine. They were pushed out of there, and they all scrunched together by Gaza, which was near to Egypt. Egypt actually in that 1967 war won that area, and then they rescinded it back to the Palestinians. Okay. 1967 Six-Day War, which is a long story. We don't want to go into all of that. Point is, right now, the United Nations is failing their own self. How can you be sending in aid? How can you be sending in all these people, all the people who work for your organization without protection? They need to have protection at least. So if United Nations is doing anything going forward from here, you should send in a peacekeeping force. Because you can't do it, because the workers are not going to be able to leave Gaza, right? They're not going to be able to leave. So you have to be able to allow them to bring the aid, bring their stuff. It's just ridiculous what's going on down there right now. And the other thing is, Hamas needs to stop firing on Israel. They just need to stop it. Just stop it. Stop it. Ceasefire. Okay. And Israel needs to stop trying to fly overhead and drop bombs on Gaza. You need to stop it. Okay? Behave yourself. You're misbehaving. I understand what Netanyahu and his people want to do. You're not doing that. It's just not going to get true. It's not going to happen. We're not going to allow it to happen. We, the people of the world, are not going to allow it to happen. We're going to make so much noise. At the end of the day, and so many people are not going to come back. So many politicians are going to lose their jobs because they're not coming back. We're not voting them back. Okay, Biden's not coming back. We're not voting for Biden. Nobody's voting for Biden. 66% of the American population wanted a ceasefire. What was Mr. Biden saying? Oh, we need a humanitarian pause. It just doesn't fly, ladies and gentlemen. It just doesn't fly. I just was looking on Twitter there, and I saw Mr. Bernie Sanders say that, this humanitarian crisis, it needs to be a ceasefire. He literally just said that in the Senate. You know, he just said that in the Senate 15 minutes ago. And he's right. He's right. Okay. He was a little bit late to the party, but at least he's there now. And let me just say, Mr. Bernie Sanders, he's Jewish. Okay. You have Jewish voices for peace in America speaking out against this. I saw recently in Congress, they were talking about Israel has a right to defend itself. Absolutely. Every country has a right to defend itself. But guess what? Palestine has a right to defend itself too. Okay? So if Israel has a right to defend itself, guess what? So does Palestine. Okay? So there we go. Okay? And Palestine has no military to defend itself. Therefore, if Palestine has a right to defend itself, the United Nations, it's your responsibility to protect those people. It's your responsibility to make sure Hamas does not fire anything. There should be a no-fly zone over Gaza, and there should be nothing coming out of Gaza, nothing going into Gaza in terms of weapons and firing things. Okay? That's what needs to happen. Okay? And Hamas is a part of the Palestinian organization, or the PLO. They'll have to go and they'll have to make account to the PLO for what they did. And they need to have elections, and we need to see what happens from there. But quite frankly, I'm going to say this over and over again. I'm going to emphasize this point over and over again, that we cannot allow things to go out of control like this. United Nations was designed to prevent things like this from happening. This is a scale that has been unprecedented. Israel has not killed so many Palestinians in any one go ever. This is unprecedented, okay? You're talking about almost 100,000 people injured, missing, or dead. That's ridiculous. That's 5% of the population. No. What am I saying? No, wait. Yes, 5% of the population. That's ridiculous. Okay? Everybody else got the hell out of there. Excuse me. But I'm just saying, I'm no Palestinians. You know, those Palestinians remind me a little bit of they remind me a bit of almost animals. You know, they know how to get out of there. But the people unfortunately can't get out of there, right? They don't know how to get out of there. They get kicked. And usually it's women and children, because guess what? The women and children are usually the ones that are bugged down. It's really tragic what's happening. And I laugh about it, but please, people, no, it's not a joke, okay? I'm just saying they know how to get out of there. But having said that, you know, it's just terrible. It's just terrible what's happening. And it's like, you know, I have so much on my feed, and so much is going on at one particular period of time that I haven't slept well for a couple of nights. Well, I mean, last night I got a good sleep, but I haven't slept well for a couple of nights just because this is just consuming me. It's like, what is going on here? Something's not working properly, you know? United Nations is supposed to do this. This is where the United Nations comes in. That's what they did with Yugoslavia, right? And they're healing back the people, and they're trying to get the people to melt together again and stuff with Yugoslavia. Why you can't do this for this country in real time? Because this is genocide going on. It doesn't go. There's genocidal numbers, right? 100 million people, 20 million dead. All right, 30 million dead, 30 million dead. 20,000, 30,000 dead, 100,000 people. Sorry, my bad. The numbers are just extraordinary there. All right. Okay. So no, you have to. United Nations, you need to do something. You people on the ground, at least have some interest in your own people. What, you don't care about your own people? You have to protect them. If you're going to send people into this area, you need to protect them, which means you need a ceasefire. Okay. I don't know how many hostages are still left to be bartered with that are alive. You know, because I don't understand the idea. If they just keep on doing some stuff. Listen, I just looked on this feed here. This is so ridiculous. I can't even believe what I'm reading. This stuff is just blowing my mind. Literally here. I can't even believe what I'm reading. It's just so ridiculous. I'm gonna give you guys something here that just is so ridiculous. I don't know what to say. Okay, so here it is. Here it is. Where did I see that? It's just so much bad stuff. I saw it. I saw it a minute ago. I don't know if I'll find it. Oh yes, yes. Here it is. This is the last thing we're going to talk about, and then I'll leave it alone because this is such heavy stuff. I don't even think I want to share half of what I want to share. Oh my God. The stuff I'm reading is just oh my God. I'm not even gonna go there with that one. I'm just not gonna go with it. Oh, God. Okay, so here it is. All right, this is from Haaretz. Okay, Haaretz is a left-wing Israeli newspaper. And it says, a soldier who shot and killed an Israeli civilian begging for his life during the response to a terror attack in Jerusalem on Thursday said he and other troops had shot until they were sure until they were sure the suspects were dead. My goodness. So they kill their own people. They're killing their own people. Actually, I was on YouTube and I saw a Israeli filmmaker. She renounced her Israeli passport and her citizenship. She doesn't want to be Israeli anymore. She knows she's going to alienate her family and everything, but she doesn't want anything to do with that country right now. It's a mess. It's a mess. They're shooting their own people, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? And that's from Haaretz. That happened in East Jerusalem. When did it happen? It happened yesterday. No, I'm bad. It happened today. Or at least it was reported today. I don't know if it happened yesterday. Okay? That's the kind of madness that's going on. In fact, just to kind of put it in perspective, there's right now an Israeli teacher who's on charges of, I can't remember what they said. It was trumped up some charges because he was posting on Facebook about us, the Israelis having close ties with the Palestinian children, and he was coordinating, these like what I'm doing right now, like a stream where you have like a FaceTime. So you would have the Israeli children FaceTime Palestinian children. And for some reason, they think that's sedition or something. And they got this guy up on Trump charges, and they literally incarcerated him in prison. And when they tried to get the charges pressed, the judge in the court threw it out. Suddenly, you can't do that. It's illegal. They're doing a lot of illegal things in Israel. And right now, they're very Gestapo in Israel. They're very... they're policing everybody. Nobody can say anything. They're trying to muzzle people so that the narrative can go so they can do what they want to do, which is they want to take all the Palestinian land, and they want to basically ethnic cleanse the Palestinians out of Palestine. So they either kill them off, or they'll push them into Egypt, and they'll push them into Jordan. They'll push the Negev into Syria, and they'll call that a day, or Lebanon. So that's what they want to do. They want to ethnic cleanse the country out. So it's crazy. Yeah, Leroy. Leroy's like, oh my, you didn't know that was going on? That's what's going on in real time. Oh, I haven't even started to talk about the Albanians in Azerbaijan and the ethnic cleansing going on there. We're going to talk about that another day. I'm just going to keep with this topic, right? There's a lot of atrocities that are happening in the world as we speak in real time. Okay, just to give you guys a little perspective on what's going on, the Eritreans and the Ethiopians are right now in a big major war. Okay, there's war in the Congo. You will say, well, the Congo always has war. Yeah, but it's a little bit more sinister than that. It's actually financed by the United States. Yes, your taxpayer money, U.S. citizens, is paying for this. Okay? Your taxpayer money is paying for the genocide that's going on in Palestine right now. Okay? Because they are giving Israel $14 billion of your taxpayer money. Okay? Which could be used for very positive things in your country, but it's going to weapons. That's right, to weapons in Israel to blow up the Gazans. That's right. I just want to let you know, your taxpayer money goes to all kinds of things that are terrible. Okay? What's going on in the Congo? Guess what? Guess what? U.S. is funding that. I know you don't want to hear that, but you got to look it up. Look it up. Okay? $14 billion going. You ever heard of AIPAC? You know what AIPAC is? Go check out what AIPAC is. AIPAC. Go find out what it is. Okay? All right. So, for those of you interested in Rebel Moon, well, Zack Snyder's done a little movie. And if you understand what's going on in Rebel Moon, you're going to understand what's going on right now. Okay? Because they kind of coincide with each other weirdly enough. I don't know how Zack was able to do that, but he seems to always keep up with pop culture and all of that. So, his movie's actually on this. Yep. Okay? So I just wanted to put that out there. I know that the major news outlets are not covering this, but if you go on, just recently, Mehdi Hassan, who is with NBC, he's I'm trying to remember. I think Mehdi's from India. Anyway, it's a long story, people. I don't want to go into all of this. I just want to give you a piece of it. You go do your homework, do your research. You'll find out what it is. Okay. Not everything is a credible source, but there's things which are credible. So you have to be careful about your information. Try not to get into propaganda, whether it's Hamas propaganda or IDF propaganda. There is propaganda out there. So be very careful about that. So but all you have to do is look up the history. I'll give you 3 different things to look up, right? And this will help you. So go look at 1948. This is where this almost began. It didn't begin there, but okay. There's something called the Peel Accords, which was in 1936, I think, and then you had the agreement before that. But anyway, 1948. What you want to look at is the UN. What's it called? Because the United Nations is guilty also of causing these problems, right? But it really was a problem that was started with the British. The British created this problem, and then they palmed it off to the United Nations. It's a whole other story. But suffice it to say, you go to 1948 and you look at the partition plan, what it was called the United Nations Partition Plan. This would have divided Palestine into what is now known today as Israel, and then the other piece is Palestine. But the whole thing was Palestine. Okay? And so you can look at the United Nations Partition Plan and read it up, Google it. Wikipedia gives you a general idea what's going on there. And then you want to look at the 1967 Six-Day War. You want to look at that. Okay? And then the last thing you might want to look at, which I think will be very helpful, is something called the Oslo Accords. The Oslo Accords. Those 3 things are 3 landmarks in this whole story. If you don't look at anything else, those are the 3 things you should look at. There's many other things in between. There's many things that happen. But those 3 things will give you a clear picture. Now, let me just say, I'm going to put some asterisks on it. You got to really look at them. What I mean by that is You can't just look at, because there's a point of view that is there, but it's really several points of view that you have to look at. So don't just look at the narrative with respect to Israel's side. Look at both sides. Okay? And I'll just tell you this. This is a perfect example of settler colonization. And this has happened throughout the world. Whether it's in the United States, we had settler colonization where the Protestants that were persecuted in Europe came to the New World. They met the natives there. At first, they befriended them and they were talking with them, and then soon they they started to kill them and take their land. And of course, as they started taking over their land and making the land their land, the natives got pissed off and they started to fight back. Right? Okay. So, and that's how, in the end, the settlers colonized whatever, and the natives have been pushed into a little corner, just like with Gaza. So they have their little, what do you call it? They call it they have their own little estate or whatever you want to call it. Okay, all the native people, you can just go right there. You have this settlement here for you, that little settlement over there for you, but you can't have all the land anymore. Right? So that's it, And you had that also in the sense of, Spain, the British, the French, they went and settled the world, which we call the colonial powers. And so this is why even in the Caribbean, which is where I live, in my country, mostly we are sort of a product of settler colonialization. The native peoples, of which I am part native, they were pushed into almost little segments, and there's no real pure natives in my country. We don't have pure natives anymore. They've been killed out, sort of like, and diluted down. The natives would either mix with, different races and different people. So at a certain day, the place where most of the natives are still celebrated and are known in the north of my country is Arima, which is a town named, it's in the native language, right? And so natives from all over the Caribbean and all of South America come and they meet in Arima at certain times of the year, and they celebrate it, and they walk through the streets and they do their cuisine, their culture and everything, And so what you have to understand is that and the natives, there's native names and stuff like that, right? And in the north, the same thing. But the natives teamed up with the slaves in Jamaica, and they are known as the Maroons. And the Maroons of Jamaica, they live in the highlands. You also have the Maroons in Haiti. They live in the highlands. They have long hair. And then you have also the rebels or the Maroons who use guerrilla warfare, pretty much like what Hamas is using now. They use guerrilla warfare in the mountains of South America. So you have like Guyana. You had the Maroons again there. They fought and they pushed back the Spanish. The Maroons in Jamaica and Barbados, they pushed back Coffee and Company Limited. They pushed back the British. And of course, the British, see, there's a lot to these stories, right? See, there were people who were also known as pirates. You've heard about the Pirates of the Caribbean, that movie. Well, pirates were like mercenaries. They were people for hire. They were military for hire. And so what the pirates would do sometimes was they would link up with the Maroons, or the hill people as we call it, and they would take out the British ships. Or sometimes some of the Maroons would couple up with the pirates. So see, there's a lot of things in history they never told you why certain places are strongholds. To this day, in Jamaica, there are certain places you just can't go in the mountains. You can't, because there's the settlements of people there. They're known as the Bobo Shanti and so on. And they live up in the mountains, and you can't go up there. You just can't. Police, nobody. It's the same thing with the interior in Guyana. There certain people in the interior, you just can't, you're not going in there. You're just not going to make it in there, right? That's how they preserved their culture. They preserved what they had. And, you have to understand that that was their way of resisting colonization. Otherwise, they would have gotten wiped out, and you know, it would have been a sad story. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's the same sort of approach that Israel is taking, but we're seeing it now in the what century are we in? The 21st century. We're seeing it in the 21st century, and we're like, hey man, what is this? This is an old system that's been used hundreds and hundreds of years to colonize the world, and now Israel is trying to apply that to Palestine, and it's been taking decades for them to get it done. The difference is the Palestinians are not. They're just not. They're resisting. They don't have a military. They don't have, you know, they don't have an airport to say they can fly out the country and leave. You know, they can't do that. They're restricted in every single kind of way by an oppressor who shouldn't even be there. Like, that oppressor is not supposed to, they have no legal standing when it comes to being there. They're only there because the United States is supporting them. And that's why you guys have to realize that's your responsibility. You're the ones funding this. You're the ones that are allowing this to happen. And so if you don't like that and disapprove of it, you remove the people in power, and you find people in power who will be able to, and you put people in power, who will be able to be empathetic to that and to try to reverse that or to enforce a change. That's what's very important. So you make sure and let your Congress people, you have to be proactive. Change does not come if you just pray and hope. You have to be proactive in this world. And so, you know, I'm a part of the BDS movement. I don't believe in violence. I do believe in trying to deter violence, though, in whichever way necessary. So if you have to use military force to sort of make your opposition back down and realize they are not going to be held accountable for their violent actions, because sometimes all people understand is the intent of violence. So if you mean what you say and you have a physical military presence there, now they can't just bomb Palestinians anytime they feel like it, right? Israel can't just go in there and bomb, because remember, Palestine doesn't really have a military, so they can't defend themselves, right? So that's why Israel's just being a bully. They're just bombing them and they're doing whatever they want because nobody's making them accountable. Nobody's saying, hey, you can't do that. Stop it, right? And then bring physical presence in there and say, hey, if you fire, we'll fire back, right? Nobody's doing that. So until they do that, Israel's going to do whatever it feels like doing, because it just feels, I can just do anything I want. Okay, which is not what they're supposed to be doing. They're like a little child throwing a tantrum. They're not supposed to be doing that. And the government that they have is just as wild. You know, it's just like, you know, people talk about Putin, but this dude, Netanyahu, is worse than Putin, in my opinion. Putin, at least what Putin's doing makes sense. In the sense of Putin saying, hey, you can't make Ukraine NATO. Hey, what you trying to do? What you trying to do? Attack us? Okay, I'm going to flex my muscles. I'll show you what we can do. We'll get back Ukraine to land, but don't worry about that. But we're going to show you, if you try to attack us, we're going to take you down. We'll just destroy you. We'll crush you, right? That's basically what Putin's saying. That's all he's saying. He's making a point. Okay? He's just making a point. He's not necessarily interested in taking over the entire of Ukraine, right? He's just trying to send a warning shot. Don't make Ukraine NATO. You're violating the agreement you had with Gorbachev. And two, what do you think you're trying to do? You trying to corner us? You trying to get nations around us to corner us? Okay? You disagreed with us about the arms deal. You're arming yourself up. The treaty that you made with Gorbachev, you're violating that. Okay? And anybody who knows Russians know. Russians don't play. Russians will kill you. Okay? Russians have never lost a war. Except against the Taliban. Nobody's been able to get rid of the Taliban. You think you kill them out and then they just come back. The Taliban are unique. I mean, they're there right now. They're in Afghanistan again, running things. It's like, what? But other than that, it's crazy because under Barack Obama, they went into Afghanistan, took down the Taliban supposedly. Nope, they're there again. Just for those of you who don't know about this stuff. So what I would suggest you guys, if you want to do a little bit of good in this world, don't only look at your little circle and your little life. Think about the bigger world, the bigger picture. And you're going to see just repeated motifs, and that's why Zack Snyder did it in his movies. He would say, men with power, they don't obey any principle. They don't obey any, they don't obey principle, and they don't obey laws, right? Because when people get too powerful, it gets to their head and they feel they can do anything and get away with it. And this is what's happening with Israel, unfortunately. Their government, not the people. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to live on this. The Israeli people are the sweetest people I've met. I have friends in Israel, okay? I have friends who live in Israel, and they actually have YouTube videos, and they do some of the most wonderful things ever. So I don't think that, I just think that a lot of Israelis don't know the truth. And when they find out the truth, it really shatters them, and they go nuts. Yeah, they start to, they trip. I've seen a couple of them trip. And it just recently, I think on Twitter, the IDF was having some sort of function, and two Israelis they lost it, and they went at them. They didn't curse or anything, but it was like screaming at the top of their lungs to stop the occupation and ceasefire. And they just kept on saying it over and over, and they kicked them out. There's two women actually, and I think a lot of people are feeling this. They're feeling it in their humanity. So many dead children I've seen. It looks horrible. It's just horrible, and this should never have happened. It never should have gotten to this point, and I'm appalled. But you guys go do your due diligence on it. Find out a little bit more about it. I'm sorry I had to give you. I know this is a very heavy thing, so that's why I haven't even scratched the surface of how bad it is. I can't. I don't want to depress people and make them troubled. I am losing sleep over it. Let me lose sleep over it. You don't have to lose sleep over it. But it's horrible what's happening at this time, and so publicly, like the whole world is seeing this. If it wasn't so public, I guess people wouldn't be so distressed. But it is a very distressing thing what's happening to the Palestinians, what they have to go through every single day, how their lives are. You swear, there was a time back in the 80s when the Ethiopians, I don't know if anybody knows this, there was this big famine because of a war that was happening. And the Ethiopians always fighting. But this war left these kids, like their heads were like skulls and their bellies were big. And it was so disturbing. It was so disturbing, And there's something about the human psyche and the conscience. You can't be eating food and thinking about these kids at the same time. You all of a sudden, everything you've been doing is so irrelevant. Like you feel like there's no joy in anything anymore. That's the feeling I have inside of me for the Palestinians. Like all the entertainment and stuff that we watch and we enjoy ourselves with, I feel so guilty about it. Like kind of like inside of me, like, why are we allowing this to happen? Why has this happened for decades? Like you ask yourself, how did I not know about this? Or did I know about this? It's very, very distressing. It's very disturbing. And, we have to do something about it. So that's why I'm here. And that's why I'm telling you guys about this. I don't want you guys to go, and, yeah, Leroy. Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. Anyways, people, I just wanted to say that. I just want to leave you guys with a prayer, so you guys can go on your way and be, well. Pray for me though. I'm not doing too well with this. I I just want to just say, Most High God, we just thank you for life. We thank you for the ability to be able to speak our minds freely, to have freedom of speech, to be able to have basic things like water, food, clothes. Right now, though, Lord, you always told us that true religion was to look out for the orphans, the widows, keep oneself unspotted before the world, and we want to be able to live that. We pray that you'll let us be the voice for the voiceless. You'll let us be the eyes for those who can't see, the ears for those who can't hear, the mouthpiece for those who can't speak. And I just pray that we'll be able to show your love to other people in a tangible way. That's all I ask in your name. Amen. So I hope you guys have a good one. I am Christ, I am disciple. But you can also check me out as What You Need when it comes to boxing. You guys have a good day. And let's hope for the best. In terms of Rebel Moon, I'm sure you guys are going to look forward to that. As well as Zack Snyder hasn't given up on the Snyderverse. But at this point in time, I will not be focused on the Snyderverse. I'm focused on Rebel Moon for the rest of this month. I also have, some good things that are going to happen. And I'm looking forward to that as well. I have to get busy with the rest of the stuff for the day. But I wanted to just spend some time bringing this to your attention so you can look into it. And not only look into it, but do honestly understand that it's not perfect people that are playing in this whole thing. That's to say, even with on the Israeli side, don't expect perfect people. And definitely on the Palestinian side, particularly with Hamas, don't expect perfect people. These people have killed people. They've committed horrible atrocities and horrible crimes on both sides. One side much more than the other, but nonetheless, on both sides, there's been a history of violence between them. So do understand and put all of that into perspective if you decide to look into this. I already gave you the 3 things you need to look at. And I do hope that this transforms your life and makes you much more of a loving, caring person, because it's very tough out here, man. It's tough out here for a lot of people. The economy's not the best either. So a lot of people are really suffering. Try to help one person around you that might be in need, that can't give you anything in return. That's one of the best ways to do it. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.